Amusingly, I was actually in the Daily Mail talking about FODMAP last year. So guys, I wanted to make this video because for about 10 years, I guess, I suffered from a condition called IBS, which for those of you who do suffer with will know exactly what it's all about. For those of you who don't, it's a really nasty condition which is very dehydrating, not very nice, and it can be a real problem. And it got to the point where I suffered with it for about 10 years, and it went from everything from sort of mild ache really in my stomach through to literally not being able to pick up my son Oscar when he was born, and being sort of bent double over on the couch at night because I was in so much pain. And it was that point when I really pushed the doctors, because it's kind of a weird condition that's not really very well known or understood, and there isn't any kind of diagnosis that they can give you or exact medicine or anything like that. So they kind of tell you to watch your stress levels, watch your food, and that kind of stuff. But when it got so bad that I couldn't pick up Oscar, I thought that's enough, and I really pushed quite hard. And one doctor in particular put me in touch with this diet called the FODMAP diet. So the FODMAP diet has literally changed my life, and for this video is really about sharing what it's about with you guys, so that I hope at least one or two people might get something from it and maybe try it out and have the life-changing impact that it has had on me. And I promise you it has been that life-changing. The reason that I feel that I can do this video for you guys is because I have now done the FODMAP diet. I've been on the FODMAP diet or variants of it with reintroductions for probably about 1.5 years now, and I've actually steered clear of lots of the reintroductions just because I feel so good. So FODMAP stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides and polyols. Easy to remember, right? I'm not a doctor, by the way. I'm not a dietitian, so if I say something today which is completely wrong, don't crucify me for it, please. I try my best to put together a video which is useful. So what are FODMAPs? FODMAPs are basically short-chain carbohydrates, or in easier, simpler terms, indigestible sugar types. Let's get into them. So guys, these are called oligosaccharides, and they include something called fructans, and nobody can tolerate or digest fructans. Nobody. So if you have IBS, then it's quite often going to be the case that it's one of these that is the real problem, real triggers. So things like onions, things like garlic, beans, wheat in bread, all evil in the FODMAP world. Now we have the disaccharides, and the disaccharides include something called lactose, which is common in things like cheese and milk, etc. But there is a bit of a scale with this one. So from one end of the scale where you've got things like hard cheeses that don't actually include very much lactose, they're not too bad, right up to this kind of end of the scale which includes stuff like milk. So steering clear of this sort of stuff is pretty important if you're on FODMAP. Now we're on to the monosaccharides, and monosaccharides have something called fructose in it, which is common in almost every fruit, I think, but some fruits are worse than others, so watch out for that. That's a bit of a weird one. Stuff like honey, asparagus, watermelon, all sorts of really quite random ones in this category. So monosaccharides, fructose, also bad. And then we have the final type, polyols, and polyols is probably one of the hardest ones to get your head around. It's in things like apples again, so not just in the monosaccharides category apples, but in other categories as well. Polyols covers things like peaches and pears, cauliflower, and then it's also in some additives as well, so sorbitol and mannitol are two to watch out for, so you really have to read the back of packets quite carefully. Often in things like chewing gum, sweets, that kind of stuff. So polyols is probably one of the hardest ones to keep an eye out for, but just as important. Here's a little tip, guys. Why not try doing what I do here? Which is, this is literally on my fridge, and I have FODMAP Diet Yes Foods and FODMAP Diet No Foods. Don't know why I needed the sound effects there. Another really useful thing that I found on the FODMAP diet was this, the complete low FODMAP diet book as well. So that's actually written by Dr. Sue Shepherd and Dr. Peter Gibson, and I think it was actually Sue Shepherd that came up with this diet. Came out of Australia or New Zealand, one of the two. I think it was Australia. A university called the Monash University, and essentially the Monash University are the university behind testing all the foods and seeing whether they're things that will trigger you if you're likely to be triggered by IBS symptoms. So guys, I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've learned over the last year and a half or so, maybe even 2 years of doing this, in terms of substitutions and how easy I'm finding it now in terms of when I'm at home buying certain things instead of other things. So I'm now going to share with you my substitutions. Bread. So I don't actually have any gluten-free bread, which would be my substitution for normal bread here, because I don't really eat a lot of it, but it's actually not too bad. Look out for Newburn and Genius, the two types that I prefer when I have it. When I'm eating out in a restaurant, a good top-end restaurant will have gluten-free bread, which will actually taste really quite nice. The lower end restaurants probably don't provide for that. So one important thing to remember is that you're not gluten free with FODMAP. It's all about the wheat and the barley content within these things. So but gluten free, asking for gluten free is one of the easiest ways to deal with that issue. So quite often look for gluten free menus when you're out and about. Milk. This is an easy one. Substitute it for lactose free milk. Job done. And while we're talking about lactose-free milk, this is another little tip which is brilliant. So Arla, who make that type of lactose-free milk that I just showed you there, also make these little handy bad boys. And you can see that. You can take them out in your pocket. I haven't had a single one burst, which is brilliant. And best thing is their long life as well. Honey. Substitute out for maple syrup. Lovely. But be careful on this one because some of the cheaper maple syrups contain other things that you do not want in the FODMAP diet. Pasta. So this is an easy one for me because when we first bought pasta, gluten-free pasta, we weren't sure whether it's going to be any good. And actually it tastes really good. It's slightly different, but you get used to it and then you wouldn't look back. So Liz, who's not FODMAP, she quite happily eats this gluten-free pasta with me and enjoys it just as much as normal pasta. Easy. Onions. These can be substituted for spring onions, but be careful. Don't use the white bit of the spring onion, only use the green bit. So chop it up really fine, fry it up if you want to, and you'll be FODMAP safe. Garlic. So garlic, the substitute for it is garlic infused olive oil, which apparently is okay. Can't remember the reason. I think it's something to do with when they put the garlic in the infusion, it takes out the FODMAPs or something. I can't remember exactly, but that's what you do if you want to substitute garlic. Interesting fact about garlic, it's so bad that actually if you used it and just put a small smidgen around a frying pan and then use that frying pan, that could be enough to trigger someone with IBS. So that's often, I think, why when I eat out I have trouble, because the chefs probably use pans that do have that in it. So yeah, garlic is a real killer. Horrible thing. Cheese. This is quite an easy one as well. Swap it out for lactose-free cheese. Arla again. Winner. Oh, while we're on the Arla vibe, by the way, these are also great. So Arla do a butter, lactose-free butter, and lactose-free cream as well. Worth noting with butter that FODMAP should be fine with butter, but I just err on the side of caution and go with this one instead. But the cream is excellent for things like sauces. So we make loads of peppercorn sauces and cream, cheese sauces and stuff like that with this. So yeah, epic. So guys, here are some other things that I enjoy eating, which should be fine if you're on the FODMAP diet. Cereal. Everyone's got to eat breakfast, right? Most important meal of the day. This is the gluten-free Rice Krispie. Actually tastes fine. Not just like normal Rice Krispies, no problem at all. So that is my breakfast every morning. One of the problems I had with FODMAP is low energy. So went to see a dietitian even, and she recommended that I started to put things like seeds and nuts and stuff like that onto my meals. So every lunch now I have that on my salads, which has been a real winner actually. While I'm on the subject of lunch for me these days is gluten-free oatcakes, a bit of salad, tomato, cucumber, peppers, olive oil, salt and pepper, these things, bit of ham, bit of turkey, and that's pretty much what I have every single day. No bloatedness, no problem in the afternoons at all. Fantastic. These things are a lifesaver. Gluten-free oatcakes, nairns. We get through so many of these, but they're really nice for lunches, just light lunches, and yeah, work really well as a snack. One of the challenges, let's say, of FODMAP is that you can't eat chocolate, or should I say dairy. Therefore you can't eat milk chocolate or white chocolate, but you can eat dark chocolate. So this is actually Mossa Roth, which I think comes from Aldi maybe, or Lidl, one of the two, Aldi I think, and has become a particular favourite for those of you who with a sweet tooth. Then dark chocolate is one to look out for. Just make sure it's got no milk in it. This was a winner, right? So one of the big problems is stocks, and trying to find stocks that you can use. So this is a beef stock by Knorr, and it, as far as we can make out, is about as FODMAP friendly as you can get in a stock, because most of them have onions and garlic and stuff like that in them. So this has been a real winner and has opened up lots more meals that we didn't think we could do when we first started this diet. One of the things I think is important about FODMAP is that you have to stick with it. So it's really tough, and it's not something that you can just do for a couple of months, I think, and just suddenly be okay. Kind of felt with me like it had to work its way through my body, and really probably took 6 months to maybe even a year before it really started to have the major effect that it has had now on my life. So it's something that you guys really need to stick with if you're gonna try it out. Just a quick word on eating out. So some of the things that I've learned in the time that I've been doing this are lunch times are normally fine. Staple for me would be like jacket potato with something like tuna mayo, sometimes cheese on it. Don't have any problem with that. Salads, chicken salads, salmon's a good one, so baked salmon, often with potatoes or green beans. Green beans are fine. Eating out in the evening, obviously you can go salmon again, but it's going to be one of the problem areas for you. It has been for me. I can control most things at home. I can control lunch pretty well, but going out for a meal is probably the most tricky thing. So don't be afraid to ring ahead to the venue to tell them about this. It's just not worth the pain otherwise, and I know sometimes it's quite difficult because it makes you feel like you're just an inconvenience, but actually, you know, you've got to weigh that up with how you're going to feel the next day or the next few days afterwards. So the chefs that I've talked to about this have had absolutely no problem with it whatsoever, so it is worth just taking that step and ringing ahead if you can. Good tip, ask for sauces to be put in a little bowl on the side. These are the particularly bad ones for me, so I need to find some creative ways of getting rid of them, banishing them from my house. Gives me an idea. Wilbur, are you thirsty? So I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. This has been a real pleasure to make it. I really hope that it reaches or resonates with some people. Those of you who are trying FODMAP but maybe aren't sure whether it's working for you, stick with it, give it time. I'm sure you'll have the success that I've had. For those of you who haven't tried it but are suffering with IBS symptoms, then please give this a go, because like I say, it has really changed my life and made such a huge impact. And massive thanks to the doctor that pointed it out, Monash University, and everyone else that's involved in the FODMAP world. Lifesavers. Even stuff like apples. What the hell am I doing? It's not that at all.